Alright, hey all y'all. Thanks for dropping in. Alright, let me just set the timer for, let's say, yeah, about 54 minutes. And we'll just jump right into it. Come on. Okay, there we go. I thought I had this charged up. Now it's saying low battery. It should probably last. I'm only playing for a couple hours. Alright. Now we just got to get the video ready. The new place, I'm enjoying it a lot. Yakalaka boy. All y'all popping in like it was just yesterday. Because I did come by to I did do the E3 stream, which is the first stream I did for my new location. Now, these are all probably videos most of you have already seen before. But there are some of my faves. No, this shouldn't be. Yeah, it's funny. I still have stuff in a storage unit back in the state where I moved from, and so I just yeah. So my buzzer is back in the other state, and I haven't traveled back to the storage unit, or have I ordered a replacement razor yet. Not a razor, just a buzzer. So, yep, so you get to enjoy the stash again. Now, let's see if I'm... Actually, you know, I'm gonna quit Game Capture HD. I'm getting a bit of stuttering, I guess, between my... Alright. Now, if the balancing you want me to adjust, the balancing on if you want me to turn the volume off, because I can turn the volume off on this, especially these ones where there's all this narration, but the music is a big part of the appeal to this form of some of these videos. And mostly I'm just doing a really sort of conservative sort of stream, you know, content, a game we've seen before, our old, you know, our classic warm-up game, Pinball versus Pinball. And some public domain train videos I know I've seen on stream before. So that way, if we have any technical problems, no all new content's been lost. Yeah, I'm still experimenting with the lighting in this place. I did the one stream on Nintendo's the day of Nintendo's E3 presentation, which is really flattering just to see how many people were willing to spend their Nintendo E3, the first Nintendo E3. In like 2 years, because like, well, we went all the first E3 since 2019, and you guys spent Nintendo's E3 with me. Oh, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. You know, it's funny. My first exposure to You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is eventually they made a animated adaptation of it in the style of the television specials. So I wasn't familiar that it was based on a musical. And at the point I first saw it, I must have been 4 or 5, and I wasn't familiar with the Peanuts comic strip until I was maybe 7. And at that point, I just fell like neck deep in love with the Peanuts comic strip. I was getting all these old Peanuts comic strip anthology books from thrift stores and stuff. But I wasn't familiar with the Peanuts comics, and that Snoopy spoke via thought balloons in the comic strip. So I'm like, what is this one-off Charlie Brown tape where Snoopy talks? Because it's animated, but it's more based on the universe of, I guess, the comic strip as opposed to the conventions of the TV series. Oh, you weren't aware of it? Oh, well, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I never actually saw the stage production myself, but I was familiar with it through the animated adaptation. I guess they must have made in the 80s. Now, my online ranking still exists. For some reason, it's making me... I had a lot of crazy adventures today. Well, all day long, I just left my PC, and I put in... I guess... I don't know anything about the creation of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I really have no idea if Charles Schultz was involved, or he just gave his blessing, or what. But I know, when I was, so all day long I had the computer with my broadcast software and all my web browser and all the stuff I have when I stream, ready to go. And so then it's like, okay, it's 3 o'clock, time to get ready for the stream, you know, to do the final preparations, which I really didn't think would be anything. And, oh, my computer crashes, which I think is really the second time that's ever happened in over a year of owning this computer. It just flat out, full off, basically blue screened. And then when I opened it up, Streamlabs has a mandatory update. All of a sudden, Streamlabs OBS has a mandatory update I have to do. And then it didn't want to recognize the Elgato, and that's one thing I didn't comment on my 1-year anniversary special. I've had incredibly good performance out of my Elgato, to the point where I basically very rarely ever had to think about it. I basically almost forget that it exists, because I just go to stream and it just works every time, and I'm really spoiled in that respect, especially compared to a lot of other people's experience with Elgato capture cards and other Elgato products. So, what is it? Yeah, so I did E3. That was kind of the... I was only at this new apartment a few days when I did the E3 stream, and that really was my first actual test of my new internet setup. And since then, I've just been taking the time to get settled into my new location and my new lifestyle. And work out, you know, get settled in before I started dedicating to streaming regularly again. And if you look at my About page, I also posted on Twitter and Tumblr, but if you look at my About page, you can see through my, my main thing for E3 especially, I mean, there are a lot of things in the Wholesome Direct that I was interested in that I'll probably never, there are more games that I'm interested in that look cool or fun than I'll ever actually see, that I'll ever actually have time to play, and I accept that. But I know my two main takeaways for Nintendo, therefore E3 in general, were Metroid Dread and Mario Party Superstars, was it called? Yeah, and the new WarioWare game. It's not often that I may well end up buying 3 different retail video game releases this year, and I do have I have a PlayStation 4 now. I don't really have any plans to stream with it. For the first time really in a long time, I've been playing some video games off stream. You never played a WarioWare game. I would, hey Mecha Kong, I know you were in there before, but you know, yeah, I would suggest, well, any of them are fine to jump into. I would strongly suggest for a first game, the Game Boy Advance title is what I'd suggest for your first WarioWare game, but any of them are fine. The only one, I never played WarioWare DIY. I know there's some ready-made games, but the emphasis on the game creation thing, you know, just wasn't, it's just not my alley. And then there was that weird DSiWare thing that used the camera. Well, that game's kind of extinct now. You need to, like, hack a DSi and pirate it now, or find a used DSi that has the game on there. You kind of bitter about the series effectively called WarioWare? Yeah, because, like, you can see sort of a direct lineage between a lot of the mini-games that appeared in Wario Land 4 and the micro games and WarioWare Mega Micro Games for GBA. And as a WarioWare fan, and as a fan of the Wario Land games, or at least, actually, I'll be honest, I love Wario Land, but I've only played the first one on Game Boy Pocket. On the original Game Boy, and I played it on my original gray brick Game Boy back in the 90s. That's the only WarioWare Land game I ever played. Actually, no, that's not true. I played a few. I got Wario Land 4 for Game Boy Advance, and I only played a few stages of it, and I enjoyed it a lot. You know, it's a very different kind of flow than the one for Game Boy. But I guess there's something. I knew it was a great game. And because of that, I sort of put off playing it. So when I get my Analog Pocket, I'll have to pop that cartridge in. Actually, I think I have Wario Land 4 on the Wii U. Now, the Wario Land game that's going to be on Nintendo Switch, That one's gonna be, it's a much needed. It's like, how do you add another? I mean, you could just keep making up new microgames forever. But like, what do you do as a twist on the Wario Land franchise? Often involves new hardware, something like the touchscreen on the DS, the gyro sensor when the second release on GBA, or something like the what else? Like the Wii remote on the Wii. But I think what they did with this, the new twist for this new Wario Land game WarioWare game for the Switch, is that instead of just controlling the game directly, you play the game by controlling the different WarioWare characters, and you control them and manipulate them to complete the games. They all have different powers. I didn't look too deeply into it because the surprise of what's going to be flying at you next and figuring out what to do in the few seconds you have is part of the appeal of WarioWare. But it was a really ingenious twist on the franchise, I gotta say, as far as what to do next. Yeah, so WarioWare we've got coming. Did you watch any of my streams of me playing the original WarioWare? If you haven't and you're interested in playing WarioWare, I would kind of suggest you maybe not watch them if you haven't seen them already, just so all the crazy stuff that happens could be a surprise. You know, there's not much in terms of plot, but just in terms of like, oh, you have to pick a nose all of a sudden, or, you know, all the crazy situations they just throw you into, and you have to figure out, okay, what am I playing as? What am I trying to do? And you have like 4 or 5 seconds to figure it out. What else? Yeah, so like, much like Sonic the Hedgehog, the Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog games, aside from the first one, the Wario Land games are a series where I really enjoy the fact that it's one of my favorite games. The first in the series is one of my favorite games ever, and yet the majority of the series is completely fresh to me. So, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm gonna be playing Metroid Fusion sometime. Probably by the end of the summer, I'll probably go into playing Metroid Fusion. I haven't played that since 2004, so I'm familiar with it, but it'll be pretty much like a brand... there's going to be a lot of stuff I'd forgotten all about, which will be fun. I've got to say, like, I don't deal with complexity that well in games. Like, for instance, like I said, I have a PlayStation 4, access to a PlayStation 4 now. I purchased Final Fantasy VII Remake, and if it were not for the... easy classic mode, there's no way I could keep up with this game. Now, even playing in classic mode, more often than not, I am moving the character on my own, which if you don't move the character, they'll move the characters for you, but if you put in inputs, it will respect your inputs, and it'll attack when you want to if you do press the square button. So I'm using a mix of just letting the game autoplay itself at certain points, or letting the normal attacks and movement and blocking do itself, and then you're just focusing on using action commands, or what is it called? Using the ATB stuff. But like, if I had to play that like how in the traditional manner, there's no way I could keep up with that game. You may play the 3DS remake of Metroid 2. Yeah, because I'll be honest. I had enough games to play at the point that the Metroid 2 remake came out for the 3DS. And aside from that, when you talked about like the melee counter stuff that's also going to be in Metroid Dread, that's the kind of stuff that I look at and think, will I even be able to keep up with this game if it gets too complicated? Because I'm thinking, like, for instance, and by the way, that scene there. Hold on, I gotta rewind a bit. Come on. Pop up. I'm just waiting for my interact window to catch up with me. The Pali-Len. And by the way, he says the Tally-Lin. It's actually pronounced Tally-Clin, because like the double L is like kind of like a K or a C sound in Welsh. But look at this clip right here. Look at this right here. There, mind you, watch this. This is supposed to... They only have one camera to work with. And they play this off as though it's spontaneous, but it's very clearly a scripted scenario. Yeah, that was very... I mean, bless them. It's probably a recreation of something that actually happened. But yeah, when you only have one camera to work with and you have shots on board the locomotive, and then when they're filming from outside, there's not a cameraman on board the engine, so it's very clearly that they staged all that, and that's part of what, it's just cool just noticing things like that. Yeah, so I don't know if the whole melee counter thing or all these different mechanics, because like Metroid Fusion ultimately does play exactly like traditional Metroid, and then when you get into Samus Returns, they start adding more advanced mechanics to it, and those things make me worry if I'll be able to keep up with it or not. Alright, if the battery on this dies, I'm just going to have to switch to using the Joy-Con. I'm using the Switch Pro Controller for this, and for those who are unfamiliar, this is the Arcade Archives versus Pinball played on Nintendo Switch. Doggone. Now, doggone. Now, yeah, so about my streaming schedule going forward. Today, I decided, because it's the first of the month, it would be a good time to start getting back into this again. But... So it's today's a Thursday, but my weekday streams are going to be every other Wednesday, and then every other Wednesday at 4, and then on Saturday at 12. The Saturday streams are going to go longer. The weekday streams will go no later than 6 o'clock, no matter what's going on. Therefore, I see the weekday streams every other week, every other Wednesday, as an opportunity to maybe enjoy some shorter, more pick-up-and-play, arcadey, high-score-oriented type games. On Saturday, it'll be my 100th stream. And now I'm almost kind of glad that my move, Samus Returns on Switch, I kind of doubt it. Like, when they have... I feel if they were going to do that, they would have already done it and then announced this as a separate thing. Now, one thing we're going to have to deal with is the volume differences between the different videos. Now, the interesting thing here, if you look at this video, this is on the Vale of Rydal Railway in Aberystwyth, Wales. And this is filmed in the 80s, and at this point, this narrow gauge railway was the only steam, this was the only steam operated, steam operation of steam locomotives continuing on the British rail network. Because the steam on British railways, really grossly put, the British equivalent of Amtrak, kind of ended in 1968. But because of this narrow gauge railway was mainly doing tourist operations at this point, they made an exception for the Vale of Rydal and continued using steam locomotives. So that blue color with the corporate logo with the two arrows facing back and forth on the side was something that was only applied to diesel and electric trains, and was kind of made to differentiate the modernized British Rail from the steam era of railroading. For public perception purposes, but because they continued operating these 3 steam locomotives on this one remote branch line, these engines ended up being given the modern livery. It's kind of like one of those anachronistic sort of things. I mean, it's not anachronistic, it's just the actual history of what happened, but it's kind of ironic. It's kind of like seeing like a Zeppelin with TWA written on the side, or like Delta Airlines, where it's like, okay, those... Like, Zeppelins were out of use by the time those airlines came into existence. Yeah, so Metroid Dread, I don't know, the coolest, I don't buy many amiibo. The only amiibo I want right now that I don't already have is the Piranha Plant from Smash Brothers, which I hope isn't one of the... at one point I had a chance to get it at Best Buy, and I just like, now I'll get it... I'll get it in a week or two, and then a few months have passed, and I haven't seen it since. I hope it's not going to be one of those things like Wii Fit Trainer where it's going to end up being super rare. I'll look for it online. I'm sure it's like pretty cheap on Amazon or whatever. Because I don't buy a whole lot of decorative items, especially right now with the way my lifestyle is. So what I was going to do is yeah, I'll get Piranha Plants. And I don't even necessarily want the new version of Samus from Metroid Dread, though the amiibo is pretty neat. I want the amiibo of the Emmy, because I do have a thing. I haven't set them back up. I had a theme going on my desktop computer, because I do have the type of computer where you put the monitor on top of the computer, the kind of more old-fashioned style. And actually, that's the monitor I'm looking at is sitting on top of it. Now, what I have this sort of theme going where I had like a Rob, and I had a Rob the Robot amiibo, and then I had a Guardian, then I had a Porygon 2, which was not an amiibo, it's just a Pokemon figure of Porygon 2 from Pokemon, and a couple, so I think just going with my theme of robots or computerized characters that I had going on with the amiibos that were on top of my computer, the Emmy, from the, and plus it's just a cool robot design, especially when it's on all fours. You know, they did a good job designing a robot that could go very convincingly go from being bipedal to being quadrupedal. But, yeah, it would be cool if they put Samus Returns on Switch, because a lot of people, like, were done with 3DS by the time Samus Returns came out. I remember on the IGN boards there was a bit of backlash from people saying, oh, like, Nintendo, like, 3DS stole Samus Returns from us. And it's like there are a number of people online. Hey, TurboGrafx. Yep, we're I'm sitting here playing the game that we kind of ran into each other over. Yeah. So this is my first stream since. Well, I did a stream for Nintendo's E3 presentation, which is what I was just talking about. But and that stream went perfectly well. But yeah, I did a cross-country move. Well, not quite cross-country, but I'm in a different region now, and I just didn't know what the internet situation would be like. But the cool thing is that it's a multi-state, like cross-regional move, but there was no furniture involved, which made it very easy. A lot of my stuff is still in a storage unit back in the old state. And then so this is my first scheduled. I'm closer to you, but not as much as you'd probably like. Yeah, I'm still in the Eastern time zone. That's all I'll say. I'm still in the Eastern time zone, the EST zone. But so this is my first regularly scheduled stream. I started today because it's just the first of the month. It'd be a great time to get into it again. But I'm gonna be every Saturday, and then every other Wednesday. So, because I'm doing a weekday stream this week, I'm going to skip next week, so the week after next. And then I have my 100th stream coming up. You could look on my my About page has my new schedule. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, the new apartment, I'm liking it a lot. In fact, the closet in here, actually, if you can't... Oh, this is a video I took myself at the Bluebell Railway in England. Yeah, I don't know if maybe some of you haven't seen this video before, but I took this video myself, and a kid is gonna walk past dressed as that kid there who's walking up. That kid is actually a volunteer conductor. He was actually a conductor in training, and he actually took my ticket earlier. Now look at this train going by. Look at the engine. I rode on board the actual locomotive. Look at all these passenger cars. It's a mix of cars from different eras, or coaches as they call them there. That's a third class with a saloon for wheelchairs. And there's a couple of short four-wheel coaches. These two are longer Southern Railway coaches. So this is a train of some of the older carriages that they've restored. The oldest coach I rode on there was from the late 90s. I really haven't explored the local community yet. I've mostly just been just getting settled in my apartment for the most part. And then the train I was riding in was actually... The train I was riding in was full of coaches from the 1960s. Oh, here's some footage I took when I was over in Charlotte. Because, yeah, they have actual streetcars, and I never actually got to ride a streetcar before, so that was cool. There's a funny story about how I ended up seeing this one, but it's a little complicated to tell. Yeah. I haven't looked for bubble tea shops. I really haven't had much money to spend on. I actually stocked up on canned food and ramen before I moved, because I knew it would be a while before I was able to, you know, just purchase whatever food I wanted. So I stocked up on non-perishable groceries before I moved, so I didn't really have to worry about. I haven't had to worry about buying food since I moved. Yeah, there was a documentary movie that came out in the late 80s about the streetcars in LA, and how a land development company they tried to buy up all the streetcars so they could build a freeway. And there was a lot of controversy because there was this guy who owned the land that they were going to build the freeway through. And he held the land, he owned the land, but he let all these people live on it. And then when he died, there was controversy over who would get to own the land, because the development company that owned the freeway actually put a hit out on this guy and arranged for him to be murdered. And because the will went missing, they were actually going to bulldoze this town to build the freeway and shut down the streetcars in LA. But the detective that was actually investigating the murder ended up busting the guy that put the hit out on him, and they were able to save the neighborhood and actually keep the streetcars running for a few more decades. You may have seen this movie. It was called Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Bob Hoskins was in it. Yeah, I know. I'm just playing around. Yeah, so yeah, that was an interesting. I actually came up with that on the fly. I never actually tried to describe Who Framed Roger Rabbit as though it were a documentary. Because the funny thing is, like, aside from the whole cartoon thing, the actual underlying plot, there's some sites from people that these are all my own videos of the streetcar in Charlotte. They're actually videos. Imagine if I kept going over further with it, and the detective who busted the case actually ran over the guy with a steamroller and then dipped him in acid. That would have been wait, what? Yeah, there are some, I guess, people with certain political views who are extremely against any form of public transportation. And I've seen them online complaining about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, claiming it was like pro public transportation propaganda, and they're trying to abolish the right to own a car or something. And it's like, you're complaining about a movie with a cartoon rabbit. Like, you gotta chill. You can't get mad about everything. And look at that. And writing that was so surreal, because I had ridden in trains my whole life, but being on board a train, a rail vehicle, and looking outside the window and seeing cars, and I'm on a train and I'm stopped at a red light alongside a pickup truck and just regular automobiles was such a surreal experience. But I'm glad I got to see it, because they've since retired it. So I'm glad I got to drop by there before they retired this. Now, they closed it because they're expanding the line to be even longer. Because this line's only a couple of miles, as it is. Oh my gosh, hold on, why is my frames were in the red there for a second. But online it says, on my web-based stream manager, it says it's in excellent condition. Yeah, and what's ridiculous is like Charlotte, for instance, this is a streetcar line they put in within the last 10 years. But they had a streetcar line that they paved over and replaced with buses, and now they have to use taxpayer money to put all this infrastructure back in that was there to begin with. Because we don't need streetcars anymore because now everyone will have cars. Then everyone had cars, and the traffic was worse than ever, so now they have to go back to using, you know, public transportation. I mean, they have buses, but like the they, you know, just to have, you know, an electrified system with no point of use emissions, and it's a bit of a hilly area, and when I understand, electric motors do really good for efficiency on hills. Yeah, that Who Framed Roger Rabbit thing, that thing might actually be worth clipping sometime. That I might actually go back and clip that. That was kind of funny. All right, now about my tags. I put a lot of tags in here. I'm sort of leveraging Twitch's new and improved tagging system. New and improved in the sense that they actually put in tags that you'd want to use. So I put in a number of tags. Is there a streetcar character with a face in Thomas the Tank Engine show? There is. Okay, the closest thing to a streetcar in, like, the original lore, in the Railway Series books, in the original version of the show, is Toby the Tram Engine. And a tramway is kind of an interesting, like in the UK and in Europe, a tramway could mean like a streetcar line, just like what we saw there. Oh, this is another video from the Bluebell Railway. This is, I'm using a selfie stick to get this shot, and I regret doing it. That's why I don't, this is an unlisted video, because out of context, it makes it look like I'm climbing on top of the train and acting real crazy. And actually I wasn't, and I, you know, got permission from the crew of the locomotive to do this. Because riding on board an operating steam engine is not a joyride. You are, like, for instance, the coal and water car there, the tender, which is a permanent, it's basically a permanent part of the locomotive itself, even though it's not part of the same, like, vehicle as the boiler and the firebox and everything. The actual engine and the tender are moving and swaying separately from each other. And if you're not watching where you put your feet, you could get crushed. You know, you have to have safety shoes, you know, because there's crush hazards and everything. And I did not go here. They invited me. They gave me special permission, and I had to sign a bunch of waivers and stuff. Look at the engine there. That's such a cool shot. They invited me on board the engine because they were so blown away that I came all the way from New York, where I lived at the time, to visit their railway, which was, you know, I first learned about the Bluebell Railway because of Thomas the Tank Engine. So now, yeah. So Toby the Tram Engine is a steam tram, basically a steam-operated equivalent of what in the U.S. we would call a trolley or a streetcar, but there's nothing, the type of tramway that, like, the type of tram engine and tramway operation that Toby represents isn't something that kind of has an equivalent in the US. There is something a little closer to a streetcar character in the show. There's another steam tram locomotive with a tram car. Now in the US, it seems like for the most part, a lot of operations went straight from being horse-drawn to being electrified, whereas in the UK and in mainland Europe, there was a lot more of a presence of streetcar, basically steam-operated streetcars, as we would call them here, or they call them steam trams, where there is a small locomotive with covered wheels and a covered cab, that's hauling a unpowered passenger vehicle, or even two of them. And there was a character called Flora in and I think it was in the last season of Thomas the Tank Engine before it went to models. And mind you, I really stopped following Thomas the Tank Engine after about 2000, 2001. And that's, so there is a character called Flora the Steam Tram who only appeared in that one season and then never again. And so I guess Toby and Henrietta, and then Flora with her unpowered streetcar that she pulls, are the closest thing to like a street-running streetcar type operation in Thomas the Tank Engine. But that's a lot, I think, due to just the difference. And like, for instance, they didn't, when they the original version of the Thomas the Tank Engine TV show that was recorded by Ringo Starr, they used, in the original version, they used British railroad terminology. So they call, instead of a caboose, it was called a brake van. Instead of a guard, we will call a conductor here, they call a guard. And what we call freight cars, they would call trucks. And so for the US version, to make it easier, for American audiences, they localized it and used terms like conductor instead of guard, or conductor instead of guard, freight cars instead of trucks. But when it came time for Toby the Tram Engine, and talking about, Toby's a tram engine, they didn't localize that into streetcar or street railway or trolley, because none of those terms really apply to anything in the US. It was kind of a uniquely UK definition of the word tram. And I was kind of a little curious as a kid, because the only tramway I knew was the Roosevelt Island tramway that goes between Manhattan and Roosevelt Island. For those of you who've seen the original Spider-Man movie, where the Green Goblin attacks that bridge in New York City, and there's an aerial cableway next to it, that is a real, that bridge is the 59th Street Bridge, or the Queensboro Bridge, and that tramway, the aerial tramway, actually does exist in real life. I only rode it once, and I rode it not long, when I realized I would be leaving the New York City area. I actually did ride it once just to say I rode it, because I knew that bridge for years. We'd always go over that bridge. It was one of the main ways we'd go in and out of Manhattan, but I never really had any business. I'd have nothing to do on Roosevelt Island. But then when I actually got on the island, I was like, wow, this place is actually kind of cool, this compact little city within a city. But I had to keep moving because I was late in the day. I had to get back home. So, yeah, and it's kind of frustrating. Thomas Tank is an example. You see people from the UK be like, oh, they bastardized Thomas and dumbed it down for American audiences. And it's like, they didn't erase the meaning of what these things meant. They just made it so Americans would be able to understand it easier. Now, here's an interesting, Mechacon, if you're interested in localizations, here's an interesting case. There was a story called Rusty to the Rescue. There's a little diesel engine called Rusty, and they go to a scrapyard and save an engine and bring it back to the island of Sodor. Now, what this is actually a fictionalized version, like that railway I was just watching, that was the Bluebell Railway. This was actually the story of Stepney, who was kind of the mascot engine of the real-life Bluebell Railway. But in the Railway series, the book about Stepney the Bluebell engine kind of goes into the history of how the railway preservation movement started and how Stepney was saved from scrap. But that really... Actually, let's turn on the closed captioning here. There we go. Yeah, so the point is, I guess Rusty went... so Rusty goes to the scrapyard and he has his driver, and they don't specify this, but when they get there, Stepney's driver is already in the cab, just keeping his engine company, which is kind of interesting, because it's kind of like his engine's on death row and he's just visiting him because he's all dirty and ready to be dismantled. And I guess, how do I put this? So... And they don't specify, but I guess they're two members of Rusty's crew, and Rusty, being a diesel engine, only needs a driver to operate, whereas a steam engine normally needs a driver and a fireman. And they wanted to explain I'm Rusty, I'm gonna get you out of here, Stepney, and then they talk about how, Rusty's engineer agreed to be Stepney's fireman. And that was the same line in the UK and in the US version. I didn't know that at the time. Because, as a kid, I was like, wait, if Rusty's engineer became Stepney's fireman, he's on board Stepney with Stepney's driver, so who's driving Rusty back to the island of Sodor? Now, when I got older and had access to the UK version of the episode, I understood what happened. Because in the UK version, they also say, Rusty's engineer became Stepney's fireman. But in the UK... an engineer does not mean a locomotive operator. In the UK, an engineer, in that sense, would mean like a mechanic. So the implication that they intended was that the second member of Rusty's, that Rusty had a driver on board and a mechanic on board, and the mechanic agreed to board Stepney and serve as the fireman. But they didn't like localize that properly. So in the US version, it made it seem like Rusty's driver boarded Stepney to tend to his fire, leaving Rusty without a crew. So one of those little localization glitches. Now, this railway that we're looking at here, there actually is a book of the railway series. You know, the source material of Thomas the Tank Engine. I believe it came out in 1959. Or no, it came out 1960s. No, 1967. I think this book came out. Oh, actually, should I? No, I'm not. I'm looking over at my shelf because I haven't. Actually, I can. Actually, no, I have to. Now I have to show this off. I have to show this off now because I've got to mention it. Okay. All right. So I've got this ammo case, this watertight ammo case here, and then when you open it up, oh, let's see, we've got small railway engines. We've got number 12, 8 famous engines. This is all in reverse, so excuse me. Oh, here's my copy of Stepney the Blue engine, the Stepney the Bluebell engine, which is actually signed by Reverend Wilbert Audrey, so I don't want to take that one out the bag. But here I've got the first 26 books in the Railway series. And here is, what have I got here? Here's Mountain Engines. And let's see if I'm right on this. I think this book came out in 67. Let's see if I'm right. Let's check the copyright date for this. Oh, 1964. Sorry. I thought it was 1967 because I thought this was... For some reason, I thought this was the book that came out right before Enterprising Engines. And Enterprising Engines is interesting. Because, yes, this is now... let's see if... where's Enterprising Engines? 8 famous engine... Mainline... Okay. Enterprising Engines. No, actually... Yeah, no, it's actually Stepney the Bluebell engine. I'll use my non-signed copy of this. And now, this image goes around a lot online because of the... So, Stepney wasn't actually in the videos because Stepney was dismantled at the time. But look at this illustration here. This is engines in a scrapyard being dismantled. There's one hanging, like, half dismantled from a gantry there. And there's the guy with the blowtorch ready to dismantle this engine permanently. This is probably one of the more infamous sort of images from the series. And then... it was explaining, oh, they made a place called the Bluebell Railway where steam engines can live and be taken care of. Yeah, that one kind of gets circulated out of context sometimes. It's one of those ones that, you know, gets circulated online a lot, maybe a bit out of context. But, yeah, so I do have an ammunition case full of Thomas the Tank Engine books from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. All right. Okay. But what I was getting at, the Snowdon Mountain Railway is that book Mountain Engines I was talking about. This railway here is the railway that Mountain Engines is based on. Oh, and oh yes, I do have. I think I disabled it for E3, but I do believe my Sodor Lore Redemption is re-enabled. And if not, let me know. I could re-enable it. If anyone wants to spend their hard-earned premium tokens to listen to me. Now, I used to use this video a lot. I don't really so much these days, but I use this video a lot to fall asleep to. I just put it on and just... it's a half-hour video. By about 15 minutes in, I'd fall asleep usually. Okay. Hold on. We're going to have to go settings, viewer rewards, channel points. Enable channel points. Manage challenges. Enabled. There we go. It's enabled again. Now, that's not pressuring or asking, you know, what people do with their premium tokens is their own business. But I just wanted to make sure that was enabled for those who, because the main reason I have that behind a channel point, okay. Alright. We're pausing, okay, we're pausing the timer and the video. We're pausing the timer. Good call raising it to 5K. Because really, I might as well just make it like a 1K. But really, that's just an arbitrary thing to make it so that if I'm going to go prattle on for too long about Thomas, it's someone, at least one person in the chat actually wants it. So here is the lore reading. I normally have the game window up in the corner, but I had to recreate my, okay, so I'll have to remember, I have to update my thing. So, okay, what are we going to hear about today? Today we're going to learn about the construction of the Mid-Sodor Railway. The Peel-Godred Committee approached the mining companies who saw advantages in the Peel-Godred connection, and following a series of meetings at Ulfstead Castle, chaired by John Arnold Norrenby, Earl of Sodor, the Mid-Sodor Railway Company was formed in 1872. They brought up the tramway and relayed it to Board of Trade passenger carrying standards and opened it in 1874. There were 4 stations: Arlesdale, Marthwaite, Farquhar Road, and Arlesburg. A road coach link was provided from Peel-Godred to Maithwaite, pending the completion of the mountain section. They were thus prudently in a position to earn revenue while the most difficult part of the line was under construction. The site selected for the summit station at Ulfstead Road stood at 867 feet above sea level, 264 feet higher than Castney Hawain, though the two places are, as the crow flies, only a mile and a half apart. Mr. C.E. Spooner of the Festiniog Railway was consulted, but as he was occupied with the North Wales Narrow Gauge Railway, the actual survey was undertaken by his son Edwin, who advised that the railway should climb in a series of loops, thus effectively increasing the distance between the two places to 6 miles, and reducing the gradient to manageable proportions. He advised that the actual length of the climb should be for 5 miles at an average of 1 in 100, and that it should be arranged in steps, with nearly level sections between them. He explained that this would allow laboring locomotives to ease off and blow up steam, or alternatively to gain speed, therefore impetus before tackling the next climb ahead. Edwin Spooner's survey and estimates were accepted. It necessitated the cutting of 4 tunnels, and it was here that the company's troubles began. Having cut 2 tunnels, it was found inevitably that their expenses far exceeded estimates, and with 2 more tunnels in prospect, money was running short. They economized by cutting down clearances to those which had been allowed on the Festiniog Railway. But even so, they had little money left for the last few miles to Peel-Godred. Fortunately, there was no expensive civil engineering problems here, and the only casualty was the final central station they had planned for the town. They had to settle instead for a temporary terminus on cheaper land in the outskirts along the Arlesdale Road. A branch line to Ulfstead had also been planned, and this had to be dropped too. So that is about the construction of the Mid-Sodor Railway. Thank you, Mechakong, for spending your premium tokens on the Sodor Lore Redemption. And yes, everything I just said was legitimately canon. Thomas the Tank Engine lore. I did not just make that up. There we go. So now we're back to... I actually already read a little bit of lore about the backstory for the Mountain Railway on Sodor. The Mountain Railway, which was directly inspired by this railway that we're learning about now in this video, actually. And you notice that even though this is an old VHS transfer, it is in widescreen. Which is quite interesting. This video is between 1986 and 1993, and the reason we know this, I believe those are the dates for this video, and the reason I know this is because it mentions that the number of diesel locomotives they have that it mentions they have 2 diesels, and the period in which they had 2 diesels was a period between, I think, the late 80s and the very early 90s. So that's a way that we could date this video. They also mention at one point that the railway is nearly 100 years old. And the railway celebrated its centenary in 1996. So because of that, we know that this was probably, well, like, it was definitely before the 100th anniversary. And they say over 97 years old, I think. Or over 90 years old. So it was definitely before 95, because I think if they made it 95, they would have said over 95 years old. And I almost got into this, but I didn't really go into detail because the subject changed. But, actually, I have not hydrated. I'm going to restart there. Went on quite a while. I've not gotten my my proper water bottle out of storage, so I'm using these, which are a bit precarious because it's easier to spill those and have a catastrophe on stream than with my my hinged bottle. Battery depleted. Time to get out those Joy-Cons. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the, I don't have the Pro Controller ready to go. Oh, wait. Why is only... Alright. Wait, do I still have my crazy... Wait, is this still... Hold on. Excuse me. Okay, there we go. Where's my controls? Where's my... Because I made some weird, like, custom thing for my Joy-Con so I could play it with only my left hand at one point. Okay, so... Okay, alright. Okay, the Joy-Con shoulder pads are responding now. Yeah, when I do my break, I guess I'll go and try to find the... Actually, could I... Hold on, I'm gonna see if I could find... I think the grips are nearby. My grips aren't too far out of reach. Because it really isn't nice. I don't like holding the Joy-Cons without the grip. Alright. It's funny, I was... Wait a second. It's funny. Alright. I went looking for my Joy-Con grips. I mean, like... Well, not the Joy-Con... Like, you know, the wrist straps that make the Joy-Con, like, better? Like, make it more of a full-feeling controller? But instead I just found the grip, which is probably what I should have thought of to begin with. Alright, that's more like it. I really don't mind playing with this. I played almost for... The first year I had Switch, I played just with the Joy-Con grip and with the Joy-Con as my main controller. Main reason I got this Pro Controller is because I just wanted to have a proper D-pad for playing 2D platformers with. Oh yeah, this is so much better. And, yeah, so I keep getting into this, and then the subject kept changing. Last time it was because the battery died on me. But I'm trying to make use of the... I'm experimenting with the new tagging system that we have on Twitch here, which is really just the tagging system before, but with more actual useful tags added. So you might notice that there are a number of maybe some interesting looking tags there. For the most part, I was just kind of interested in seeing who might show up if I tagged the stream with those if I use those tags with the stream. I mean, worst case scenario, maybe some trolls or weirdos show up. Best case scenario, maybe some cool dudes show up because of maybe some stuff we... one of those tags in particular, I don't particularly identify with. I was just kind of more interested in who would show up. For better or worse, potentially worse. Like who, yeah. So, if anyone shows up and asks about the tags, or Yeah, like in fact, I gotta be honest with you. If some weirdo showed up who I ended up having to mute or ban, it would probably be someone who was attracted by the tags, like, sincerely, as opposed to people who were attracted by the tags just to come and troll for me using them. Because, you know, when you tag certain things, you're liable for some interesting people to show up. And it's funny, because I went through that tag, and I really wouldn't go out of my way to find people using that tag. But I guess I really just put it on there to see who might show up. Because frankly, most of the people who use that tag are VTubers, and that's not something I'm really interested in. I don't really watch VTubers. I wonder if it's a combination between, like, no one, like, I wouldn't watch someone because they're a VTuber. I would watch someone almost in spite of them being a VTuber. That's nothing against VTubers, because the time like, there's a VTuber that I follow here on Twitch, and I just kind of pop in, and I'm just kind of, just watch it for, like, no more than a minute or two, just kind of in fascination by this style of presentation and everything. More so than because I actually like them personally, or their material, or their content, and I don't dislike them either. And I really, like, just yesterday, like, we were talking about Ready Player One, the movie, and I was kind of, I just happened to say, like, you know, like, Ready Player One, because they knew about Ready Player One, but they weren't really familiar with VTubing and Twitch. So I just showed them this VTuber on Twitch, and they were happy to be live then, so I just popped on and just showed them this, and they're like, yeah, this is kind of like the beginnings of a world kind of like Ready Player One, where everyone's just sort of interacting in a completely digital world through these avatars that have nothing to do with their actual physical appearance. And I know I was in Mecha Kong's stream the other day, and I just came up with that on the fly. He asked how I liked Ready Player One, and I think what I said was, I think I said, for a movie with the emotional fabric of a dumpster full of Funko Pops, it was a lot better than I expected. And I think he said, like, and I think he responded really, like, enthusiastically, like, yeah, that's about right, or something to that effect. Because I really didn't look at any feedback of it. I just knew, whether it was good or bad, it was the kind of movie where I guess all these commercial aspects of it were something that, even if I liked the movie, would be something that I could very sincerely relate to and empathize with someone for disliking the movie based on that alone. Yeah, but I didn't. I mean, I knew there was a couple of characters I knew that would appear in the movie. I was just kind of watching it because I knew they would appear. I'm not going to spoil it. Because actually, if I was not spoiled on this, I would have been less interested in watching the movie, but I would have been far more but I was far more interested in watching the movie because I knew this was coming. So, alright. I'm gonna let this game, void out. I'll be back. I'm only gonna stream for another hour, so I'm gonna be back in, I'll be back in... Where's the timer? Here we go. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm gonna let the... Actually, I'm gonna mute the music. Hold on. I'm gonna mute the music, and I'm gonna let the video play here. And so I will be back in 5 minutes. Excuse me. Alright, there we go. Alright, we're back. Just in time for the end of the Welsh National Anthem. And, well, let's do this for another hour. Alright. Let's see, how much time's left on this video? 22. There's 5 minutes left on this video. Alright. Let's skip ahead a bit, because all they're doing now, they're just taking the train backwards down the mountain. They're not so good shots, but, you know, I'm not gonna... I did this video, and oh yeah, and if you actually looked at this, I apologize to anyone who wanted to actually see furry content. That's the art on my whole screen is pretty much all you're gonna see. I mean, it's my character, but I don't like if I don't think I can ever. I mean, my character is just me as a species I created, and it's not. And I created the doorworms first. I created the like actual humanoid beings as an accessory to doorworms, not the other way around. And my character is just me as a floppy, dog-eared alien thing with a big worm on his tail, which is basic. So I really don't see the point of me role-playing as him. So like if I was gonna do a VTuber type thing, I'd probably want to do it as a doorworm, as the giant googly-eyed like worm snake creature thing, because that's actually something that, because I'm already like a humanoid being that wears glasses and clothes and stuff in real life, so I don't think just being that, but with like the snout and big floppy ears would be that appealing to me, or I wouldn't get the point of it much. So yeah, so I put that tag there. I don't know if this really counts as furry content. Just I don't even really identify that strongly as a furry, but I guess if it was a binary thing where either I am or I'm not, I guess I am. But like, yeah, I really just put that tag there to see kind of who showed up, if any interesting people showed up for better or worse. You're enjoying your stream via your Bluetooth speaker. Alright. You know, one thing I do need to do, I need to wipe my forehead. I'm getting a slight sheen on my forehead on the light, and I really can't stand that. So I just grab the paper towel, wipe my forehead. Now I'm good for the rest of the stream pretty much. It's not too hot where I'm at, but I did step outside for a second, so now I forgot what videos I put in here in which order. Now I did generally, like I said, just because this is my first regularly scheduled gameplay stream, I did want to do something kind of that I didn't want to do anything that had never been seen before on my stream, so that if something acted up, we wouldn't be, or the stream went down. Oh, it's another video of mine again. And how long is this video? This video is like, I think 20 minutes. I'll skip through about half of it. Yeah, so this is when they invited me on board the locomotive. It's not as bad as it's not so bad. I mean, it's cool enough out. It's reasonable enough that I went outside and took a little walk as part of my break. So, actually, I could probably turn the sound down on this a little bit. There's no dialogue here, because there's absolutely no talking while the train is in motion. It's all business when the train's in motion. I mean, they do have their little teapot brewing on top of the fire, you know, because we are in England, and when there's see, look, you can see their little tea thing sitting on top of the fire hole. So yes, they do use the heat from the fire that makes the steam for the engine. They do use that to make tea. And to keep their tea warm. But it's reasonable enough outside that I did take a little walk as a break when I got up during that 5 minutes, which is really for me is more like 3 minutes, with a minute to go outside and a minute to get back in. So, Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this. This is visible on my, if you look on Twitter or Tumblr or on my About page here, on my schedule. On Saturday, I am doing a watch party of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'm doing an Amazon watch party of that. I did check. Apparently, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is available on Amazon in both the United States and Canada. Because I know when I did the Charlie Brown stream, some people had to find, that were in Canada, had to find their own copies and try to sync it up with mine manually. But anyone who's going to be here for Sonic the Hedgehog, which will be noon at, well, the stream will start at noon, right? And so I'm going to, it's Saturday. It'll be Saturday at noon. The first hour, I'm going to start by playing Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear, which takes about exactly... I'm pretty reliable in that. It's one of the few retro games, retro platformers I could beat on command. And that usually takes me around about an hour, depending... so about an hour into the stream, I'll switch over to the watch party of the Sonic movie, which will be the first time I've seen it since the original time I watched it. So this is going to be my second time ever seeing the movie. Unfortunately, Detective Pikachu is not... Oh, you have Saturdays off, and that's early enough to work for you? Oh, awesome. Yeah, unfortunately... Yeah, double-check to make sure Sonic is available in Canada. From what I heard, it is available in Canada on Amazon Prime Video. Yeah, unfortunately, Detective Pikachu is not on Amazon Prime Video, at least not right now. That was one I definitely would love to watch on stream, but unfortunately, that is not available on Amazon Prime, at least not in the US, which is where I'm based in. But, actually, after this ball, I gotta remember to have some water. It's so weird, like, just seeing that video playing and knowing I'm the one holding that camera. Like, that is just so crazy, thinking I was actually there and saw these things with my own eyes and rode these trains, you know, and actually was physically there. Because it really feels like being in a parallel universe, where it's, like, so similar to back home, but... And then there's the whole different thing that I'm in a whole railway that's a historical reenactment of something that hasn't existed for more than half a century. Oh, you can see my feet there for a second. With my plate, like, I was leaning... No, I think the plate was leaning over... from the tender side. As I keep my feet there, so because the tender and the locomotive itself operate separately. All right. Alright, and that across the, like, our engine was pulling the train of the older coaches, which date from, like the late 19th century to, like, the early 20th century. And then that train across the platform is of coaches that would have been used from, like, the 50s and 60s up, and that were in commercial use up until the early 90s. And they were really generous to invite me on board the locomotive on this day. Because, as you'll see, there are 3 people on board the engine. There's normally a driver and a fireman. Then there's an apprentice. There's like a fireman who's like being taught how to do it. And then there's also me. So normally there are twice as many people on board the engine as normal. And I do have some slides during the Sonic movie on Saturday. I do have some slides ready for things I just want to point out or show or demonstrate. And so I'll play Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear, which is the version of Sonic I had growing up. We'll watch the movie, and then if I'm still feeling it, I'm going to pop on a Sonic for Master System, and we could maybe play that casually and talk about the movie. Because I can't pause the movie to talk about things once I start it, so I won't be able to pause to point out specific things. Yeah, the ball saved from bubbles there. And it's funny, because with my tags here, I put casual and high score attempts, because, yeah, I do have an online, like, I do have a high score ranking, but I don't care too much about it. Like, if I beat it, I beat it. There was one point where I was kind of more seriously trying to grind with no distractions. But in general, I feel like the weekday streams are going to especially focus more on more high-score-oriented games that I could play just for a couple of hours. And then the games I play on Saturdays in general will be things like having a 2-hour-ish movie and then like play a couple hours of gameplay, or play a game that, I might have a warm-up game that I might play for 15 minutes or just a half hour, but those will be games I'll be playing for longer durations. And then, so like, I'm going to eventually, I plan for this anyway, I'm going to eventually go back to Mario Party Advance. Oh, and I do have my 100th stream coming up soon. I forgot when it is. I think it's the... Hold on, let me look at I have my schedule open right here. My 100th stream, actually, it's open to the Soda lore reading, which I keep in the same document as my stream schedule. I gotta scroll down a bit. Yeah, so my 100th stream will be Wednesday the 14th. And for my 100th stream, what I'll be doing, and I do... if it was for the fact of me moving, my 100th stream and my 1-year anniversary would have been right one after the other, but because of the delay from me moving, it's cool because now I get to celebrate them as more as separate things. I was even considering like going on hiatus a bit, so my 100th stream, trying to time it so my 100th stream would have been my 1-year anniversary, but I didn't really want to do that. For my 100th stream special, I'm going to be doing... for the first time ever, I'm going to attempt single-credit runs at Sonic the Hedgehog, because I could beat the game on command. I'm not interested in doing speed runs at this point. And the game is easy enough that I probably... If I'm playing usually I don't take a death until the third act of the third world of the game. And it's usually not until... I usually don't take a death, if I'm playing properly, I usually don't take a death until... the boss of Jungle Zone, the Robotnik fight in Jungle Zone, and if I don't die to the Jungle Robotnik, I usually don't take a death until the final boss, believe it or not. If I could avoid a death from Jungle Robotnik battle, I usually don't take a death until... I mean, sometimes I might... It's a possibility I can mess up in the Labyrinth Robotnik fight. But typically, I do not take deaths until either the final couple of stages of the game, and if not, and definitely most of, like, 90% of the deaths, 95% of the deaths I take at this point are just going to be deaths I take during the final battle. In the second to last stage of the game, there is a blind jump that you're forced to take in order to get the last Chaos Emerald, which also happens to be the easy path. But if I do not have the spacing for the jump, because you have to take a jump to an off-screen platform, a jump to a platform that's not on screen until you make the jump. So if I do not nail that jump, I will take a death there. And if I take a death, I am going to use the opportunity to practice a bit and then reset. So I'm going to take a few, maybe 2 or 3, maybe about an hour of attempts at single credit runs. Then I'm going to take a break. And what I'm going to do during that break is I'm going to rank all the games that I've played. Considering the games I'll be playing between now and my 100th stream, I will have played, I'll have to pop, this document wasn't open yet. I will have played, I think, 32 different games. Let's see, I'm just waiting for the document to open. Yeah, I will have played a total... Yeah, exactly. With the games I'll be playing... I'm only going to be playing one new game. I believe... Yeah, I'm only going to be playing one new game between now and the 100th stream. Now, I'm going to just put on the closed captioning. Hold on, I have to adjust the volume here. Yeah, this music is fantastic. If the music is overpowering my voice, let me know. Yeah, the music in these is fantastic. And no, this videotape is from I mean, the footage is like footage for the 50s and 60s. But the tape makes it look like the tape itself was assembled and edited together in like the 70s or 80s, but it's actually from the mid 90s. But the footage is all like public footage from like the 50s and 60s. All right. I just don't want to blast anyone out because the tape itself is not especially well preserved. Okay. Here we go. Now, the funny thing is, like, this is the kind of video where if I wanted to just mute it and just have the closed captioning, that would work pretty well. And in fact, in the Deltarune video, I did take some of these videos, and I muted all the train videos and just had the closed captioning running. Because Deltarune, I would just, if you didn't see the, oh, and by the way, it seems like it's for regular streamers who aren't like, you know, bigger streamers. It seems like it's saving the recent streams, like, to be archived for a lot longer than it used to. Because I have videos from like a month and a half ago that are still viewable on Twitch, which is awesome. Yeah, that tank engine there, I actually did see there was a tank engine like that I first saw on the Bluebell Railway's website back in like 99 or 2000 or so. And it's kind of crazy because I first learned about the Bluebell Railway from the Thomas the Tank Engine book from 1960. And in that book, they show some of the engines that are preserved there. And it didn't occur to me by the time I got internet access that, oh wow, like they might have acquired more engines since then. And then some of the engines that are depicted in the Thomas book actually have gone to other railways since then. The only engine, beside from Stepney and Bluebell and Primrose, the two Southeastern Chatham Railway P-class tanks, the only other engines that are there are the Adams radial tank number 488. That is no longer preserved. Is probably not going to ever steam again, from what I understand, because you'd have to replace you'd have to basically replace so much of the locomotive that you'd basically be building a replica at that point. So for preservation purposes, they're just leaving it as a static exhibit. But also there's a little red tank engine, an industrial tank engine by Fletcher Jennings. I think its name is Captain Baxter. That is still preserved there. Oh, a derailment. A minor one, because it's not totally off the tracks. It's off the tracks. It's not like... Yeah, you can see the crane operating there to put the train back on the rails. Look at that tank engine going backwards so fast. So these videos were taken in the period where steam is being retired and replaced with more modern trains. So whoever could afford home video cameras of any kind were taking all the footage they could before steam was gone forever. Okay, I'm gonna really kind of focus on this more than I have. I have been playing. I've been honestly playing and trying to get a high score. I'm gonna focus on this a bit more, maybe talk a little less. So you're gonna let the video entertain you for a little bit while I play. Yeah, I hope the video, like, there have been times where I'll go back and look, where people in chat say, like, oh, your balance is fine, and then I'll watch them, like, oh, my voice is overpowering the video, or, oh, the video, or the video game is overpowering my voice, or I'm overpowering the game. But as long as my viewers are happy, I know I'll look back at the VODs later and probably be like, oh, it sounds terrible, how could I have let the stream go on like this? But my viewers are happy with it, so I'm happy with it. No, so I am, let's see, after this game's over, I want to check, actually I might as well check now, it's not, I've lost a few balls already, that was probably not going to be the record-breaking game. I'm looking, so let's see, Sonic movie, first Pinball, Skyscraper, yeah, Yeah, I am probably... Yeah, sometime soon. I haven't quite... I've scheduled... Like, now that I'm trying this month to have, like, a more... Like, I'm trying to have, like, a more regular schedule. A more reliable, regular schedule. And I know sometime after, between my 100th stream, which will be on the 14th, between the 14th and the end of the month, I would like to at least once go back. Well, I will be doing this whether I do it late this month or not. I would like to go back to Mario Party Advance, because we did beat the single-player mode in Mario Party Advance, the single-player story campaign, which is kind of unique among the Mario Party games, but there is most of my hours in Mario Party Advance, because you cannot replay, like, if you have because I had the actual cartridge back in the day, the only way to replay the single-player story mode from scratch is to completely erase your game pack, and I did not want to do that. And so, what I want to do is, the main mode I played is kind of this there's a mode where you have to beat like 8 mini games in succession without losing one, and if you win, you get a bunch of coins. And just winning that mode a couple of times is enough coins to like basically buy everything there is to buy in 100% the game. So but that mode is fun because there's like, because of the wonky balancing on those mini games, it's like I feel like a third of the games are entirely too hard, a third of them are entirely too easy, and then a third of them are well balanced. And then, so if you are really good at the ones that are entirely too hard, you can beat them, but it's not especially likely. So, it was just kind of fun. I went through this period where I was rocking my Game Boy Micro around as my main handheld, and I just pop open Mario Party Advance and see if I could beat minigame attack mode. And I'd go through periods on and off where I would just play, or I'd either use the Game Boy Micro, or I'd use my DS Lite, which could play Game Boy Advance cartridges. And so, like, it was so frustrating because you get so far in. Woo! That was close. Yeah, let my throat get way too dry there. Yeah, let my throat get way too dry there. And I almost had a huge coughing fit. Because I guess I just haven't gotten back into the rhythm of drinking as often as I should. And plus, I probably haven't been drinking in terms of, you know, hydrating as often as I should, just because I have the bottle with the cap on it. Once I get it's in a suitcase still, my actual bottle I use for drinking while streaming, where it's just a hinged bottle. I hit a button, it pops open, I take the no, actually, no, it has a straw. It has a straw that I could drink out of. I just hit, the straw pops out, and I can just take a sip, and I don't have to worry about spilling, because my old water bottle, I actually spilled it on stream once. I don't even know if I have the VOD of that up. It was in my first 10 streams for sure. It was one of those evening streams. I was trying to play Sonic the Hedgehog, and I had 0 viewers. It's one of those early streams where I would still sometimes have stretches where I'd have absolutely 0 viewers. And, which isn't fun, but I've been blessed to, like, I've so seldom had 0 viewers on stream. Even if they weren't active in chat, I usually had at least 1 or 2 viewers that I knew were real people, even if they're lurking. And even when, apparently what I've been told is even when it seems like I have no viewers, I'm apparently really good at carrying the stream with no one watching. Which apparently isn't that common of a skill. I don't browse to random streamers as much as I used to and much as I'd like to. It's something I should really get back into, because you never know you'll run into. I just pop into a streamer, it seems like only 1 or 2 people, or even 0, and see what's going on. Usually, it's easier if there's playing a game that I'm already familiar with. But there are a couple of times where I'll pop into a streamer that's streaming something once I popped in on a streamer that was playing Genshin Impact. I know nothing about the game except for I definitely don't ever come off as awkward. All right. Well, it felt awkward to me, or maybe a little not awkward. I guess those, when you're not even on your 10th stream and there are moments where there's your reviewers. But the thing is, I was kind of expecting that early on anyway. Because I'll be honest, like from what I could see, but it's not always accurate. Like I've got like what 5 or fewer viewers right now. I'm happy I have any viewers. And then there's some people that I've seen that have a much fancier equipment and setup and fancier about page and custom emotes and everything that have less viewers and chatters than me. So, like, I'm happy anyone's willing to watch me just sit around, play games, and talk. Especially a not particularly, I guess this isn't the most visually exciting game ever. Look at those, like, a Shell and BP card logos on that tanker there. Now, it's kind of funny. Look at these old British tankers. Like, an American tanker would probably be, like, one car that was, like, 3 times the length of that. And at this point, there's still a lot of use of unfitted goods vehicles for freight work, where the cars don't have individual brakes that could be controlled from the train. Each vehicle is just kind of literally just a tank on wheels, or just a open wagon on wheels, where the cars just bump into each other and it's difficult to stop them, and you still need a caboose to help with braking. I find you, Mechacog says, I find you to be one of the chillest streams, which I appreciate. Oh wow, well thank you very much. Yeah, so so for my 100th stream, I'm gonna be focusing on it'll be a weekday stream, so it won't be all that long. It'll be like this one, 2 hours, 2.5 hours tops, really more like 2 hours tops. So I'm going to focus on seeing if I could get in a single credit run. And I'm going to make another attempt at a single credit run of Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's not going to be something I drill on and practice on. You know, because that's one of the reasons I want to try to do speed runs of Sonic, is if I make it a chore where I'm just drilling and practicing nonstop, I'm not going to enjoy the game anymore. And I don't want to have that happen. So, like, yeah, taking a couple of streams, maybe I'll do because right now it's like going to be a weekday stream where I do this. So it's only going to be a couple hours tops. But when I do at some point when I do a Saturday stream where I have, you know, maybe 4 or 5 hours to try and see how far I can get at Sonic, see if I can get in I'm going to be playing one new game between now and the 14th, which will be my 100th stream. And so I'll have played a total of 32 separate titles. Whereas Kyle is doing his all-time ranking. He's got like a couple of 100 games, I think. I was able to see the tail end of his stream early this morning at like, 3 o'clock my time? It was, you know, he's in Pacific, so he's 3 hours ahead. So it was more like midnight or past midnight his time. But for me, it was like 3 in the morning or whatever. And he's just got hundreds of games, and he got box art or equivalent for all the games. So he's to the point where he can almost take all his games and make like a photo mosaic of all the different game box arts of all the games he's played. Whereas in the 100 streams, about a year and 1 month, I've only played 32 different titles. And I've just got it set up where I just gotta have my text editing document open, and I'm just gonna be like, just using copy and paste, no graphics or anything fancy, just being like, yeah, here's the games I enjoyed the most, here's the games I enjoyed the least. And some games like Klonoa, that game, like, I mean, Klonoa is like the biggest, Pete Dorr is like the biggest Klonoa fan ever, right? And even Pete is like, listen, the GBA Klonoa games are too puzzle focused. Oh yeah, no. The thing is, it's not a competition. I'm just contrasting our styles because Kyle is more into PC emulation, which opens up a lot of possibilities to him. He has a lot of systems with large libraries that he's able to stream with real hardware with. So his style is going to be different, whereas I like having variety in terms of having lots of different games to play, but I'll often go back to the same games a lot. Like, I mean, I could spoilers. The #1 game on the list is probably going to be Versus Pinball. I've gone back to it the most, and it's kind of Versus. I played NES Pinball knowing what it was, but Versus Pinball was kind of a contingency game that I already had it on the system. I never actually played it. I just kind of opened it up because I wanted to play NES Pinball, but then I realized I didn't want to switch over to the Wii U because I'd been playing Switch earlier in that stream. I'm like, oh, let's open up Versus Pinball. Then I realized, oh, this is very different in its details from the NES version. Listen, this is look at this. This is an engine from 1875, and we're in the 1950s, and these engines are still in service. In fact, there were a couple of Terrier-class tank engines. I believe Fenchurch was the oldest operating locomotive on British Railways. I think it... Hold on. Hold on. I want to look this up real quick. I don't want to get my facts wrong on this. Fenchurch locomotive. Which, of course... on the locomotive fandom page. Okay. Fenchurch was built in 1872 and was withdrawn from British Railways in 1964. So, yeah, nearly 100 years, and Fenchurch is the same type of engine as Stepney, if you know what Stepney looks like. Yeah, but no, I love the way Kyle streams. I love the way he spends an hour on a game. If it's not working, we move on to another one forever. Because I'm just the way I stream, the way I want to stream, the way I do it. It's just wouldn't quite fit in with the way I do things. So, but I do love watching the way Kyle does it. So, but with me, like I'm like Kyle is more just sort of play it by ear. Whereas with me, like, I might have a contingency game lined up, but I'd have to make a ticker for it. I like having it... I know Kyle kind of moved away from having as much information about the game on screen. Whereas, I mean, my layouts are pretty much unchanged from my very first stream. I mean, the ticker and the text there, that's just an asset that's built into Streamlabs OBS. The timer I've been using since day one. I updated the font on it for a more video gamey type font, but I've been using that timer since the beginning. Let's see. The only, like, my layout for Sonic I restarted there. My layout for Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear, the only real addition I made to my layout for Sonic on Game Gear is that I put in a Game Gear frame to give a little more flavor, like it's being played on a Game Gear screen. But yeah, the layout formula I've been using since day one is basically the layout I've been using. The only real serious variation is for playing widescreen games. Because what I'll do is I'll have the ticker and my picture in the corner, but it'll, like, I'll shrink my picture down and crop it a lot. And I'll have my picture in the corner, in whatever corner's not obstructing the game too much. And I'll just have the ticker and the timer beneath my picture, just sitting there. And that's what I did. I really did that. I think I did that for Pokemon Sword, before, like, with a very little bit I played of that. But mostly I used the only properly modern game I've played that's in 16:9, and I can't have, like, my layout like I have it for my 4:3 games here, was Super Mario 3D World. And I just love the fact, I mean, I loved Undertale. I loved seeing him stream it during the parts where it wasn't totally awkward. But once again, just how much a fandom and fans can ruin someone's game experience. The fact that Kyle's like, yeah, I liked Undertale, but streaming it I did not enjoy streaming it because of the way people were acting in chat, who were coming into the chat, who normally, were attracted because it was Undertale. And he put it on a really low tier. I think he might have even, like, I don't know if it's lower tier D or F tier game because it had such a bad streaming experience. And that's what I was getting at. I kind of drifted off topic, or not off topic. But, like, Pete Dorr is the biggest Klonoa fan ever, and he's like, yeah, those Klonoa GBA games got too puzzly for their own good. And so he doesn't strongly recommend them. I was playing them. I was enjoying Klonoa Empire of Dreams for the Game Boy Advance. This was back last summer when and I think in August and September, I was doing a sort of a tour where I was doing a lot of whatever Game Boy Advance launch window games. So mostly games from 2001 that were on the Wii U Virtual Console, which is what I play my Game Boy Advance games with until I get my Analog Pocket. So I was kind of doing a Game Boy Advance launch era period. We started with Super Mario Advance, then went to Kururin. I did Konami Crazy Racers. What else did I do? And then I did Klonoa, and I was playing it for a few days, and it was just like the puzzles were just so, like, I can't interact with chat and talk, and I just wasn't having fun streaming the game anymore because it was just the puzzles were getting so deep and complex, and I was like, listen. And that's the first time I sort of went off the cuff and did something different in the middle of the stream. And the stream kind of turned into an E3 watch party. It was kind of like watching YouTube videos of E3 stuff, which was really the first YouTube, like, watching stream I ever did. And it was kind of an off-the-cuff thing. And so when I was getting it, usually I'm super, like, regimented and scheduled with my streams. And, like, at one point, I was doing, like, I'd do a half hour or an hour of Mario 64, then I'd go into a GBA game. And so, like, having, you know, the countdown timer and the ticker saying, hey, here's what I'm playing, and here's what I'll be playing next. So people who come for, like, it's like Mario 64, that's a popular game. So I'm getting people who just watch Mario 64 streamers who are new to my stream, and so I could be frank with them. The second they come in, they'll know, hey, I'm playing Mario 64 now, and in 20 minutes, in 40 minutes, or in, you know, however long, I'm going to be switching to Klonoa Dream Drop Distance. Klonoa Tournament of Dreams. I just confused Klonoa with a Kingdom Hearts game, doggone it. And so they know what they're getting into, what they could expect, so that it's not like, oh, I lured them in with Mario 64, and then I bait and switch them. But, you know, some people like to play it by ear more, and I like, you know, the freedom isn't... I don't do this because I feel like I have to, or that it's my responsibility. I just kind of do the things that I would do if I was streaming, and here I am streaming, therefore I'm doing these things. And so I just kind of like having, okay, you know, you could expect to see me on, you know, like, Saturday at noon, and then the week, you know, and then the following Saturday, then the next... You know, I like having that schedule laid out. I like having... I mean, on one hand, it's fun kind of not knowing what your favorite streamer is going to be streaming this time and next time, and it's a surprise when they go live what they'll be streaming. I like having, you know, my games announced, and I like having the ticker with all the... I mean, this ticker for versus Pinball is unique because it has a lot of my personal stats for the game, but the tickers generally will have, you know, stuff like, oh, this is... the game I'm playing now, it came out you know, it was published by this company, it was developed by this company, it came out for this system, this is the version I'm playing, and this is the year it came out, and next I'll be playing this game, which came out on this system in this year, and this is the publisher and developer. I just like, I like having all that info. So I enjoy that Kyle likes his new stream setup. But I do miss, the only piece of data I really do miss seeing in Kyle's stream is just the fact that just being able to see what year it came out gives a lot of it helps a lot. Because like a 94 or 95 PlayStation 1 game is a very different thing from a 97, 98 PlayStation 1 game. You know what I mean? Because when you look at a PlayStation game from like 94, 95, that's still kind of in the era where... there's no guarantee that PlayStation isn't going to be the next CDI, the next 3DO, the next flash-in-the-pan wannabe next-gen system. You know, that... So... yeah, because you have a lot of more real estate to work with because you don't have the face cam anymore. And when you don't have the face cam, you don't have to worry about your lighting. You don't have to worry about your camera being pointed good. You don't have to worry about making sure you're sitting in the right position to appear on camera good. Oh, and actually, this is a different chair. This is a different chair. This is actually an older chair that I got after I moved, because my gaming chair that I used before is actually back in storage. I have a Pikachu, well, it's like Pikachu and the 3 original starter Pokemon, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, that actually I used to hang it up over my window to block out the street lights in my old apartment. And now here, I have proper curtains, there are no street lights out the window, but this chair I got here, it's an office, computer chair, but it's that pleather that likes to flake off a lot. So I put a blanket on the bottom, then I put this throw on top so that I don't have to worry about the chair, because like all over the carpet around the floor, it's all flaking. Yeah, it's one less thing to worry about. Because I have the 720p webcam. I would have got a 1080p webcam, but because this was during like the market rush for telepresence equipment and teleconferencing equipment so that people could do meetings from home during all the COVID lockdowns, I basically had to pay. I paid the price for a used 720p camera that I normally would have paid for a 1080p camera. And so I'm thinking, like where I'm at now, I don't know how long I'll be living here. I'm probably going to get yet another apartment. I'm not in a particular rush to. So I'm not going to decorate too much. And plus, where I'm at, I'm actually, behind me is actually a closet door. So it's not really a good place for hanging. And in fact, the closet is a huge walk-in closet. And unfortunately, you can't really, remove the shelving from the closet because the closet is so freaking big that I would have considered taking the shelving out of the closet and using the walk-in closet. And it has good lighting in it, too. And it's like not a damp, dank closet. It's a nice, finished, well-lit closet, big closet. The fact where it's practically a small room, a narrow room. And I considered if the shelving was removable, and I don't have that many clothes with me. I don't have that much clothes anyway, and most of it is in storage back in my old state where I used to live. So I was actually would have considered making that walk-in closet into a recording booth for my streams, actually, and for my computer use. But the shelving really isn't removable, so I just went ahead and just used it as an actual closet. Yeah, only 10 minutes left of the stream. Yeah, so the weekend streams, I'm gonna end it by, it's only gonna be a couple hours long. I'm gonna end it by 6. But the weekend streams are gonna be the ones that go on longer. So, like I said, I wanted to go back to Mario Party Advance, go into that minigame attack mode where I think you have to beat 8 or 9 minigames in succession without failing once to beat it. And it's really tense because the further you get, you do have a couple of lifelines, I believe. I think you have a lifeline where you could either choose. I think there's one where you could choose which minigame you play, and one where it'll just randomly select another minigame. So, the further you get, the more is at stake. The closer you are to, you don't want to use your lifeline now, and then the next one's an even harder one. Or, there's a minigame, I'm pretty sure I could beat it, but there's a chance I could lose, so I lose my lifeline there. So. Yeah, the most interesting thing about Mario Party Advance was remembering all the parts of the game that I didn't like, because I basically just remembered all the parts that I liked, and none of the parts that I didn't like. Well, I remembered that I didn't like the casino games. I never played the casino games except for in the single-player mode when I had to beat them. I had to, actually, beat those casino games. On the Wii U version, I abused the save state, pretty much, feature to cheat at the casino games. Yeah, I abused the save states to cheat at the casino games. Because those games are patently unfair, they're 100% chance-based for the most part, and you cannot progress unless you beat them. I never played those games except for in story mode for the parts where I had to play them. So yeah, that stream would have probably, I probably would have had to, it probably would have taken at least 1 or 2 extra streams to beat that if I had not been able to save state abuse for Mario Party Advance. Okay. I'm gonna be quiet for a minute. For once, I'm gonna be quiet for a minute. I'm gonna see if we're a fresh game. Let's see if I can actually go for my improving my. Actually, no. I'm gonna restart right there because I already lost a ball. I just want to check something real quick. All right. All right. All right. Okay, so we're gonna go for this. We're gonna actually go for a high score on this one. I'm playing this on Nintendo Switch with the Switch. I usually play with the Switch Pro controller, so that's what I was gonna say. No, I'm playing with the Joy-Cons and the Joy-Con grip for a change because my Switch, which rarely happens, my Switch Pro controller. I'll go ahead and restart. My Switch Pro controller ran out of batteries in stream, which never happened before. In a year of streaming, nearly 100 streams, and never before have my controller run out of batteries and had to switch midstream. All right, here we go. Serious time. Alright, lost our first ball there. I would like to either get, in an ideal game, I would either get the royal flush on the lower screen, or at least get into the bonus stage at least once before losing my first ball. Yeah, it's hard having the discipline to even stay this quiet. But I am going to actually just make a couple of more serious runs at this before we call it a night. And at least we made it to the bonus stage. Yeah, didn't do very good at the bonus stage, but in this version you get at least 1,000 bonus points. You get 1,000 points for exiting the bonus stage. You're at least guaranteed 1,000 points. Whereas in the NES version of this game, if your ball just goes straight into the gutter. All right, we got some points going there. Oh, there we go. There we go. And there's no tilt function in this game. You just have to play honest to goodness, legit pinball. Oh, and I don't have it with me, but I do want to play Intellivision Flashback. My Intellivision Flashback. Wait, do I have it with me? I forgot if I brought it with me or not, or if it's still in storage back in the back in my old state. But I do have an Intellivision Flashback I would like to play on stream eventually. And I'm telling you, I would have paid $200 for an Intellivision Flashback with every game they could license. I would have paid $100, $150, even $200 for an HDMI Intellivision Flashback console with like as complete a library as they could legally manage. But Tommy wants to do this Intellivision Amico thing again, and in a lot of be really weird about it a lot of the time. You know, I'm not against the Amico concept, but some of the ways that they're handling it and some of things Tommy has done and said and acted really And some of the ways some of the supporters of the Amico have acted has just been really weird and unattractive, unappealing to me. But when I criticize the Amico, it's not because I want it to fail or hate the concept of it. I mean, if I buy the Amico, it will be in spite of Tommy, not because of him. Though, even just as an observer, he's an entertaining guy in everything he does and how he carries himself, so at least there's that. But some of the attention he attracts to the project is not the kind of attention you want to have attracted to that project. But whatever. Like, best case scenario, Amico is going to be could be a neat, like, bridge between the toy market and the video game market. But it'll be you know, it's, even if everything was perfect with everything regarding the Amigo, it would still be an uphill battle. And some of the things that Tommy has, the ways Tommy's been handling the project is not improving his chances, and I would like it to succeed. In terms of his, like, sort of story and his history, like, I do think he's a really interesting person, but it'd probably be fun to, you know, like, hang out with, but sometimes I think he just takes things a little too personally. And then there's some people, even people I may even like and follow, who probably have an interest in covering drama related to the Intellivision Amico. So I admit that that's a thing too. So I'm willing to look at this in a three-dimensional aspect. Alright, we're almost out of time. Alright. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna launch at 1 minute too, and we're gonna see how many points we could squeeze in 1 minute. That would be fun to do a 1 minute time attack or a 5 minute time attack, which is basically the caravan mode. That's already built into it. I don't think caravan mode has any online aspect, but. Alright, look, can we get the royal flush in the last 30 seconds of the stream? Oh, and for anyone who cares that doesn't know, Black 5 that he's mentioned is the same type of engine that Henry is based on in Thomas the Tank Engine. Henry is a Black 5 type locomotive. Okay. And it's over. Okay. So okay, where's the music? Oh yeah, I turned off the music because I had video playing during. Actually, no, we'll play some Sonic music. Yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. On the 3rd, which will be Saturday, at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, we're going to play Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Game Gear, which I will, as always, be proudly playing on my own childhood cartridge of Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear, which was my first video game whatsoever when I got it back in '91. And I'll be doing an Amazon. After Sonic the Hedgehog takes me about an hour to beat. I beat it very reliably and consistently, pretty much on command. So that Sonic the Hedgehog takes about an hour to beat. And so an hour in the stream, at about 1, we'll be switching over to an Amazon watch party of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie from 2020, which was the last movie I saw in theaters before the COVID-19 started hitting hard in North America and shut everything down. And if I'm still feeling it after that, I will be playing Sonic on Master System, which I do have the original cartridge for, which I could play off of using my Analog Mega SG. So I will be sending y'all over to Gunstar Heroes, who's playing Game Gear right now, which is, you know, Gunstar. He's trying to play through every single Game Gear game released in North America, and he plays with real cartridges on a modified Game Gear. and is part of my inspiration for streaming to begin with. So I'll send you all over to him. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. See y'all on Saturday who could join me. I schedule out all my streams well in advance, so you can look at the About page on my Twitch page and see what other streams I have coming up. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Oh, this is awkward. Because I click the Raid Now thing and I think it's going to launch me. But no, I click Raid Now and it starts a countdown to the launch, which I'm going to do now.